Hey everyone, it's Bill Black, the Exit Coach, and let's face it, handing over the reins of a business that you've been running for years is an emotional thing for sellers, and you want to know that your baby is in good hands. There's a company out there called Delta Business Services that's created a process to create certainty for a successful business exit, and you ought to know about it. Heath-frantzen at Delta Business Services is someone that you ought to talk to. They've created a strategy that will take the uncertainty and the worry out of your business exit because they will buy your business and help with the transition and the transfer of the business. That's right, at Delta Business Services, they'll make sure that your exit strategy is pain and worry-free with their common-sense personal approach. To find out more information, you just got to go to their website and check it out. It's at deltabusinessservices.com. That's deltabusinessservices.com, or contact Heath Frantzen at 210-369-4161. That's 210-369-4161.
And tell us how you got involved in this.
Sure. I've been a financial advisor for 25 years. I have been blessed to have my father also as a financial advisor for over 50 years. And I've had a great journey in this industry, and I have learned, as I spoke about earlier, that this is what I believe is this death and dying topic, the death conversation, the end of life planning. All those kinds of topics are things that are really overlooked, they're ignored, or they're really misunderstood. And I had to realize this through my personal experience. I had to lose my mother about a decade ago on Thanksgiving Day. And it was just a terrible process. Anybody knows losing a loved one, of course, is a terrible process. But when you don't know what to do next, you don't know who to turn to, and you don't know how to get started, it really just compounds a terrible thing into something exponentially worse. And so from there, I just, after I got through a really difficult period, actually I was talking to I'm an editor for one of the largest financial and retirement planning magazines in the industry, and the editor said, it's kind of funny that we do all this planning and preparation for all these death events like life insurance and estate and wills and trusts, but yet the only guaranteed event we don't have any training or education for, and the light bulb went off, and I just thought to myself, he's right. Death is guaranteed. We can look every client in the face, and I don't mean to laugh or say this jokingly, but we can look every client in the face and say, you're going to die. You're going to have loved ones die. It's a fact. You can't postpone it. You can't avoid it. You can't predict it. And the sad truth is, in 25 years, I've seen it happen not just with my clients, but I've seen it happen in ways where I never imagined or dreamed. I've seen it happen at ages I couldn't believe. I've seen it happen, at times that were so much sooner than expected. And so, we just, as I said earlier, the topic of having this conversation and the planning and preparation for it, it is never too soon until it's too late. And as a financial advisor for a long time, I can tell you that there is no training, there is no education, there is no value add that we can give our clients and our families when they know somebody's going to die, when they want to plan in advance, or, God forbid somebody dies. When they call us up, I would say, the large majority of us say contact a funeral home. We don't know what to do. We haven't discussed the topic. We haven't properly planned and prepared for it. And then when that time comes, we're not really any value and any resource to them. And, that creates a great opportunity, Heath. I mean, if you're a financial professional and you're listening to this show and your ears and eyes aren't lighting up, and not about the money and not about the ways that you can use this to make money, but the ways that you can really, truly be of value. And, there's an old saying, there's riches in the niches. Well, this is not a get-rich-quick kind of scheme type of thing to add to your practice. This is the financial benefits are derivative. They're not primary. The primary focus is helping your families make a difficult situation easier. That's our job. Our job is helping our clients avoid large losses, whether it's money, whether it's emotional or financial hardship. And death is one of those situations. Our job is to do this. And, regardless of the money, it's something we need to talk to our clients about, plan about, discuss, and do what's necessary. And, it really is a niche and a wonderful opportunity as a financial professional because very few are doing it and very few are doing it the right way. And everybody, I mentioned earlier, there was a Washington Post article, 90% of people agree it's a great idea to talk about and plan this stuff, but less than 10% of people have actually done it. So you want to get into a world where you can really make a difference and be an expert and an educator on a topic that very few people are talking about. This is one of them.
Mm-hmm. And so it's the missing piece of the financial planning puzzle, so to speak.
Well, that's exactly what I call it. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of writing my next article. I'm just passionate about writing, and I write all over the place. And my next article is called End-of-Life Planning, the Missing Piece to the Financial and Retirement Planning Puzzle. Because, as I said, it's overlooked, it's ignored, it's misunderstood, it's taboo, it's uncomfortable. If you tell a financial advisor or an insurance agent, hey, you need to talk to your family about end-of-life planning, they would say, yeah, I agree, that makes sense. But they really haven't been trained or taught how to do it. Just one simple way that I wrote in an article that I can supply is called the needs analysis, NEADS. If you're talking to a client, the N is, what is your N stands for, I'm drawing a blank here, but the E is, what's your experience when it comes to losing a loved one? Have you ever lost a loved one? Oh, the N is what planning do you have now? What kind of plans or preparations do you have in place now? The E is, what's been your experience? Have you ever had to plan a funeral? Have you ever had to be a part of planning a funeral? And then the A is, now that you've either experienced or that you've never been a part of one, if you could do things differently, how would you alter it? How would you make things differently? And the D is, who's the decision maker? If somebody were to pass, who would make the decision? Your spouse, your children? Who's the one? And then the S is, what are the solutions? How do we fix this problem? How do we solve it? And there's lots of ways that we can talk about in a little bit to do that. But my point is, the industry doesn't have this as a part of what we do. Wills and trusts are triggered by death. Life insurance is triggered by death. Death is guaranteed to happen. I hate to say it. No, not a lot of people want to hear it, but we don't live forever. We live forever eternally as Christians, but as humans, we have a limited time on this earth. And we can choose to ignore it, or we can choose to plan and prepare. And I can tell you, the latter is much better on the legacy that you leave and how you're remembered.
Absolutely. I always recommend being proactive rather than being reactive, because you 100 times out of 100 wind up making better decisions. So for a financial planning professional who is considering adding end-of-life planning to their process, let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the best ways that you found to market end-of-life planning, and how can someone who is a financial planning professional get some traction in this niche?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is, really do your homework and some research and really understand what it's all about. And I would even preface that with, don't go into a really sensitive and important topic with the goal of trying to use it as a way to make money. Go into it as, I really truly believe in this. I'm passionate about it. I believe in helping families. And then what you can do by your passion and through your education, because really, this is something that can't be sold. It has to be taught. And for me, it had to be taught through personal experience. But when you do, seminars and workshops, you can really help them to touch and feel, as we talked about in the last workshop. Everybody listening right now, if you're talking to a client or you're a financial professional and you lose a loved one, if somebody had died in your family last night, what would you be doing right now? What would you be doing right now? things like that really bring it to real life. Unlike the way I had to do, where when my mother passed, we had to go to the nurse's station and pick up the yellow pages and start from scratch, knowing nothing and having a really bumpy ride. But once you become well-versed, and you can start writing articles, you can contact local newspapers, you can talk to local retirement associations, you can go to churches, you can do all kinds of things like we're doing. You can really kind of niche yourself as somebody who is an advocate, who is I don't want to say an expert, but somebody who's well-versed and knowledged and trained on end-of-life planning. And I call it end-of-life celebration planning. I don't like end-of-life planning. There's a lot of things in our industry that are ugly words, reverse mortgage, annuity, whole life insurance, end of life. What it really is it's a celebration of your life. And what you should be doing when somebody passes is figuring out how to remember them best and not have to do all the 150 decisions that are required in a 24 to 48 hour. So
right.
By virtue of writing, by virtue of speaking, by virtue of networking and getting out there, what I've found the number one best way, because I am a Christian, and I don't like to make this anything political or religious, but going into churches and even retirement centers, it's not solely Christian related. I have a workshop called Necessary Conversations. And it, rather than just have it be about end-of-life planning, where probably the attendance wouldn't be so great, I've dovetailed it with other pieces that are necessary conversations, such as wills versus trusts and life insurance or long-term care or, advanced medical directives, things that are necessary conversations that you can, and I've built a workshop around it, and the churches really widely adopt and accept it, and the reason why is they're the ones that get the phone calls. They're the ones that deal with the mess. There's always a church and a funeral home. Usually the two are involved together. And so, really becoming a voice in your community on the fact that this needs to be done, how it can be done, and to be a valued resource to your families and to others. Boy, you can really create a niche and a value-added practice that nobody else is talking about, so you have no competition and unlimited opportunity.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Speaking as a former pastor of 3 churches that I planted in South Florida, I know firsthand what it's like for the church officials to go through this when they lose a congregation member, even if it is expected. You're always set back a little bit. You're in shock. You're having to deal with not only the emotions that you feel, but the emotions that the family is feeling, and everyone has questions. And so to a certain extent, this workshop, this training that you're giving is not only for financial professionals, but it's for everyone involved. Everyone is going to touch that process in some way, shape, or form, and so very, very valuable education. Tell you what, Chris, how can our listeners, particularly financial professionals, who want to learn more about this, how can they contact you and start learning more about this?
Well, just to briefly go back on what you said, you're absolutely right, Heath. It is a win-win-win situation. When you have, families educated, when you have churches, all the better, because they don't have to go through a lot of the trials and tribulations. When you have financial professionals who are out there helping people and loving what they do and seeing the joy and the rewards and being a valued servant to their lives and their families. I mean, there's nothing that good except good things that come out of the workshop Necessary Conversations. So what I would suggest is, any financial professional that's listening right now, if you want to talk to me about this Necessary Conversations workshop, probably the best way to do it, we have a link on our website, the website that I've created that's the Resource Center for I think I referred to it earlier, and then many people have as the Wikipedia of funeral planning. It's got 400 pages, but if you go to funeralresources.com there's a link that you can sign up if you want to learn more. We're going to be having some webinars and some training and some education, and I'll be giving people lots of articles and information, and really taking them through a process where they become educated and trained and well-versed on end-of-life planning, and then also introduce and help them learn more about the Necessary Conversations workshop. I mean, in our industry, what are we looking for? We're looking for ways to market inexpensively to a group of people that we really recognize and wrap our arms around, and that have a high response rate when they attend a workshop afterwards to sit down with you and solve some problems. Necessary Conversations, the response and the benefits, it's phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it in my career. And so if you want to learn more about this workshop and end of life and how you can add it to your practice and be a niche and be an expert, I just can't encourage you enough. On the website, funeralresources.com, after it, just type /workshops. Again, it's funeralresources.com /workshops. And fill in whatever information you can on that page, and we will get back to you, and we will let you know when we have these upcoming webinars and training events and whatnot, and we'll help you get up to speed. It's funeralresources.com /workshops.